Good morning, good morning. Welcome to everyone. We've got a lovely crowd with us this morning here for our meeting. This is a meeting of the Hamilton County Commissioners. It's our staff meeting, September 23rd, 2025. Welcome to everyone. We've got a pretty exciting agenda here today, and we're starting with awards. So, it's going to be a good morning. So we welcome Cradle Cincinnati, Champions of Change, the presentation. So I don't know who's coming up to speak on behalf of Cradle. There we go. Please come forward. We want to hear all about what's going on with Cradle. This is an event that we do annually, so we get an update. And let me just add a little bit of history here. Cradle was started many years ago. It was an initiative of then Commissioner Todd Portune, and he recognized that we had an issue in the community related to infant mortality and wanted to collaborate and use partnerships throughout the county to try to address this issue. And we've been doing it ever since. Yes. And so thank you for being here to provide this update to us. And we're very excited to recognize those in the community that are going the extra mile, contributing to the work. So I'm going to kick it to you, and then after your presentation, we'll do those awards.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren Everett. I am the Associate Director for Cradle Cincinnati. Very excited to be here. Thank you, as always, to the commissioners for always supporting this work and the work that Cradle Cincinnati has been doing for since 2013 to lower the infant mortality rate. When Cradle Cincinnati was first started, we had the second highest infant mortality rate of a county our size in the nation. Since then, we have seen a drastic reduction in that number, but of course, there's still more to be done. So Cradle Cincinnati brings together partners and community members who are focused on driving down that number. So each year during Infant Mortality Awareness Month, we recognize community leaders who are driving this mission forward, advocates who are creating real change for families. So today's Champions for Change honorees remind us that addressing infant mortality is not just a health issue, but it is a community-wide responsibility. So thank you again to everyone for standing with us. Like I said, we have more work to do. We are very excited for the progress that has been made and very grateful for those who are doing this work. And so we're excited to honor them today.
Thank you. Commissioners, any comments before we get to the awardees?
Just excited to honor everybody. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Reese?
Just super excited, and I do want to highlight that Cradle Cincinnati certainly has been a leader. When I was at the State House, I was president of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, and this was one of our number one issues now, maternal health, obviously Black maternal health, but Cradle Cincinnati was a model that we were able to use for statewide, so I just wanted to highlight that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we're going to get to the awards. I tell you what, when we call your name, please come forward to the podium so that we can recognize you and you can be on camera while we're saying nice things. So the first awardee is Jacqueline Presley. All right. Moms who feel supported by their community have better outcomes. Our 2025 champion for healthy families is Jacqueline Presley from Cherished Hearts. Jacqueline is often described as a jack of all trades and master of all trades too. She brings incredible expertise and compassion to her work as a doula, midwife, postpartum support group facilitator, and trusted resource. As one of her clients shared, she is the culture for healthy moms and babies. Our nominators put it best. She always has the answers for whatever questions I may have. I don't know what I would do without her. I know, right? I know. A big, heavy sigh, everyone. She listens to every concern I have. She truly treats me like family. Being a midwife is her calling. She serves my family with love, passion, and care. She never asks for credit she deserves, but shows up and gets to work. Her work with the postpartum group has given so many of us moms hope, friendship, community, and countless resources. If anyone has questions, we ask Jackie. And when we were in group together, she asked us right back before just answering, empowering us as experts among experts. Please join me in celebrating our 2025 Champion for Healthy Families, Jacqueline Presley. can see that you're itching to say something, right? She's up here going, no. But yes, would you like to say a couple words?
So actually, I wasn't interested to say something, but I will.
She's itching to sit down.
I just show up the way that authentically me at all times, and I definitely show up relatable and show my own lived experiences and continue to pour into the community while empowering other people to get into this work as well. And I want to thank everybody that nominated me.
Very good.
Do them all at once?
Yeah, we are going to do a photo after we give out all the awards. Okay, is that? Let me give it to you now.
Goodness.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right. Our second awardee is Ania Nelson. Devoting energy and resources to your community takes dedication, and the impact can be life-changing. Our 2025 Community Activist Champion is Ania Nelson from Keeping Teen Moms in School. Known to most as Ms. Nelson, Ania embodies the spirit of community, building, and activism with a strong commitment to promoting health, well-being, support, and success for young mothers and their babies in Hamilton County. As program director for Keeping Teen Moms in School program, she has cultivated a powerful, holistic support network for young mothers as they pursue high school graduation. Through her strong and steady leadership, Ania has championed the transformative impact of supporting young mothers and their children, working to break generational cycles of poverty and disengagement. She ensures that every mother has the access to mentorship, practical resources, and support, helping them to achieve academic and personal milestones. Her impact extends far and includes building a multi-generational community of KTMIS students, graduates, and families. Through it all, Ania has led with deep respect, compassion, and purpose, qualities that are reflected in the strong, supportive community she continues to cultivate. Please join me in celebrating our 2025 Community Activist Champion, Ania Nelson. Would you like to say a couple words?
Although I feel this award is premature because there's so much more work to do in the community. I was just telling Maggie, the one who nominated me, I was speaking with a mother this morning. There's so much more work to do, but I do want to say thank you. And I'm not going to stop until the air is out my body, okay?
There you go. Thank you. Yep.
To win this fight, we need research and data that centers community voices and drives systemic change. Our 2025 Champion of Knowledge is Joy Barnes, doctoral candidate. You can come up. She's a doctoral candidate at the University of Kentucky. Joy is an advocate and a change maker who has devoted her personal, professional, and academic life to improving the health and well-being of Black mothers and babies in Hamilton County. Through Queens Village, she has helped create sacred healing places where Black women feel heard, supported, and empowered. Through her leadership with Mama Certified, she uplifts community voices while connecting families to trusted, culturally aligned resources during pregnancy and postpartum. And through her doctoral capstone, Joy partners with local maternal health organizations and community members to examine and address the root causes of Black maternal mortality. She ensures that the voices of Black mothers are centered in her research, using those insights to propose actionable, equity-driven solutions. Whether through grassroots collaboration of academic inquiry, Joy is deeply committed to collective action and shared leadership in transforming maternal health outcomes in her community. Please join me in celebrating our 2025 Champion of Knowledge, Joy Barnes.
I'm a church kid, so I do have something to say. First, I just wanted to give honor to God because without Him, I would not be standing here. I also want to thank my husband and my 3 children, who are my greatest motivation. I especially want to acknowledge my daughter, Chloe, who I lost in stillbirth. Though her time was brief, her life continues to inspire my work, my advocacy, and my passion for change. I want to thank Cradle Cincinnati for this deeply meaningful recognition because it's crazy that am only 25, but I have accomplished so much. I will continue to fight for healthier outcomes for mothers and babies, and although the days may seem long and the papers seem even longer, I will continue to do the work proudly, boldly, and standing up for what I believe in. Thank you so much to the County Commissioners, Cradle Cincinnati, and my family and supporters for this award.
Great. Okay, next we have one of the most preventable infant deaths, which we see all too often, is when babies die in unsafe sleep environments. Remember, babies sleep safest alone, on their backs, and in cribs. Our 2025 Safe Sleep Champion is Sarah Huber from Hamilton County Public Health. Please come forward. Sarah is recognized by her peers as a dedicated public health professional and meticulous data scientist who has significantly contributed to fostering a culture of health and support for moms and babies in Hamilton County. Her work on the Fetal Infant Mortality Review Board goes beyond collecting numbers. She delves into the circumstances surrounding each tragic infant death to understand the whys behind those losses. This approach allowed her to identify the emerging trend of nursing pillow involvement in sleep-related infant deaths last year, elevating a critical and overlooked risk. By highlighting this specific danger, she has directly contributed to a culture of informed parenting and safer infant care practices. Furthermore, Sarah's work reinforces the importance of aligning local public health efforts with national best practices from organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics, ensuring that advice given to Hamilton County families is rooted in current evidence-based recommendation. Now, therefore, please join us. Please join me in celebrating our 2025 Safe Sleep Champion, Sarah Huber. Would you like to say a few words?
I was actually at a conference last week, and something that was said to us really stuck with me, and it's that data tells you the problem, but your community tells you the solution. And I get to see the data every day, and I get to see information from our families that they share. And without our community partners, we wouldn't be able to get that information back into the community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Transforming care requires vision, commitment, and heart. Our 2025 champion for better care is Amanda Lakowski. Lakowski? There. Amanda Lakowski. Let's give it up. From Cincy Postpartum. Amanda is a doula, facilitator, and educator who is transforming the postpartum experience through her organization, Cincy Postpartum. In just 3 years, she has served more than 1,000 mothers across Hamilton County and beyond, creating safe, welcoming spaces where mothers are heard, supported, and celebrated. By removing stigma around postpartum struggles and emphasizing community care, Amanda has cultivated a culture where moms and babies thrive, supported by both professional guidance and peer connection. She builds bridges between doulas, mental health providers, lactation consultants, physical therapists, and other community professionals to ensure that postpartum families receive whole person care that extends well beyond the typical 6-week medical checkup. Outside of Cincy Postpartum, Amanda advocates for families through volunteer work with the Cincinnati Chamber of Mothers, a local nonprofit and maternal health advocacy group. Please join me in celebrating our 2025 champion for better care, Miss Amanda.
I didn't prepare much, but I'll just say, you know, when mom is taken care of, baby is taken care of. So thank you for not forgetting about mom and all that we do.
Addressing systemic inequities helps ensure every mother and baby has the chance to thrive. Our 2025 champion for equity is Dr. Natasha Connor from the Black Collaborative, Inc. Dr. Connor is an unapologetic Black public health scholar, survivor, and visionary dedicated to maternal and infant health equity in Hamilton County. As the founder of the Black Collaborative, Inc., a Hamilton County-based birth and breastfeeding coalition, she centers the lived experiences of Black families to drive systems change, community healing, and policy and advocacy. Dr. Connor has made it her mission to create safe, welcoming spaces where Black and other marginalized mothers can receive lactation support without judgment. Through her unwavering dedication, she has transformed the lives of countless mothers and babies. She has worked to break down barriers to care, ensuring that families, especially those in underserved communities, receive the education, resources, and encouragement they need to thrive. Her approach combines evidence-based practice with deep cultural awareness, allowing her to meet each family where they are and empower them with confidence in their feeding journey. Through her advocacy, research, and one-on-one guidance, Dr. Connor has not only improved health outcomes for mothers and infants, but has also created a ripple effect of knowledge and support that strengthens the entire communities. Please join me in celebrating our 2025 Champion of Equity, Dr. Connor.
Thank you so much. First, I would like to thank Cradle Cincinnati, and I would also like to thank Hamilton County Commissioners for this incredible honor. To be named Champion of Equity is deeply humbling, not just because of the recognition, but because of what it's meant. I stand here not as a public health scholar or a lactation consultant, but as a Black woman who once was a young mother navigating poverty, grief, and systems that weren't built for me. The work that I do through the Black Collaborative, creating safe spaces and affirming the Black life experience, is rooted in the lived experiences of those who are, like me, grew up in poverty. It's about shifting power, centering voices, and building systems where equity is not optional, but expected. This award isn't just for me. It is for every mother who has been ignored, every baby born in injustice, and every advocate who is fighting to make sure families not only survive, but thrive. I am grateful to be on a part of this community team of champions for change and all the work that we're doing for moms and babies in our community. May we continue to disrupt the harm and build healing in our community. Thank you.
So these 6 individuals represent a community of people that are advocating and supporting moms and babies in this community. So again, thank you for the work that you do, and congratulations on these recognitions. So one more round of applause for the. We're gonna come around and take photos. Please bring your award with you, and we'll meet you up front.
Yes, we're gonna take a big group photo and then we'll do individuals. So everybody come on up. Do you guys want to just start on the line? Yeah, so we're gonna start right over there.
Lauren, you want me to take your picture with it? Yeah. Okay. I don't know where you're from. Lauren, where's your camera? Okay. Sorry. One, two, three. One. Okay. Nope. Your phone only took one.
All right, you all are welcome to stay if you'd like, but feel free to leave just the same. We will not be offended. We are going to move on to our next item. We've got a presentation from LISC. This is an update on our Lead Safe Hamilton County and Revive and Thrive programs. So Kristen Baker is here from LISC to lead us through this presentation. Welcome.
Hi. Good morning. What an uplift. I know. I feel energized. I love all these powerful women doing great work in our community. So I'm happy to be with you today. I'm Kristen Baker. I'm the Executive Director of LISC Greater Cincinnati, and I have my LISC team here with me as well. So if you do have questions that are a little more technical, I might be summoning someone up to join. But I'm going to step you through the work we've been up to here in Hamilton County with the home repair programs that the County Commission has invited LISC to administer on your behalf, and we are so grateful for your commitment and support to our homeowners here in the county, and I hope that you will find this presentation to be informative and also to help us continue to move forward to supporting Hamilton County homeowners in many meaningful ways.
Can I just back up for 1 second
Please.
and just remind people this was $5 million that we received from the state of Ohio down to Hamilton County, and you are administering those $5 million through yourselves and other agencies.
Correct, yes,
Okay.
and I will dig into that here in just one moment. Thank you. So we're going to start, we have two programs you might recall, and we're going to start with the first, which is the Lead Safe Hamilton County program, which Commission President Driehaus mentioned is, I don't know, is this, do you want me to click? Or okay, let's see. My apologies. I'll start talking while I fiddle with the device here. Oh, thanks, Mary. So the Lead Safe Hamilton County program, we can go to the next one if you don't mind, is again a $5.3 million investment that was provided by the Ohio Department of Development to Hamilton County, and Hamilton County asked LISC to administer this program on your behalf. So thank you for that opportunity. We are deploying this through our network of partners to really meet the goal here of this program. This is one-time funds that were invested through the American Rescue Act and deployed through the state to every county and major municipality in the state to help homeowners in addressing lead hazards, which is relevant to, in many ways, our prior awards, right? This is about removing lead hazards from homes to help create healthier and safer living environments for our children and families. And the great thing about this program is this is not specific to homes that have children under the age of 6. Any homeowner in Hamilton County who met the eligibility was able to participate if they chose to, because this is really about improving our housing stock for now and for the future. So the state was really looking at this as trying to be as inclusive as possible with homes that were built before 1978 for homeowners that were in Hamilton County, and also the city of Cincinnati homeowners were eligible, which is a little unique sometimes with our county programs, and homeowners that were at or below 80% of the area median income were prioritized for this program, and that's where we kept our focus. The repairs that homeowners can receive include areas that are prone to lead paint hazards. So think about your windows, doors, places where friction might happen and paint could chip off. We were able to also do work replacing exterior siding, roofing, soffits, interior and exterior painting, of course. So we were able to accept applications. We have about 96 homeowners that were fully vetted and approved for the program. We have a waiting list now because as you see when I describe, you're good. No, you're fine. Oh, Mary's got it. All right. When you describe the spending rate, I was like, wow, all right. I'm hurrying up. The homeowners that we have in our pipeline now, some of the repairs are so significant that we're being a little cautious in bringing any new homeowners into the program until we see how our spending moves, which you see was a challenge, right? We saw a lot of these homes hadn't seen any work done to them in 20 or 30 years. So there were a lot of additional needs that manifested when our partners went in to perform the work, that we wanted to make sure we were really doing the best job for our homeowners. So where are these homes and these homeowners? You could see on this map that we have a summary of the program's footprint. We had a pretty good reach, right? We managed to touch a lot of parts of the county. We have key concentrations in St. Bernard, Norwood, Bond Hill, Avondale, North College Hill, Mount Healthy, and then we also have good traction in Cheviot, Gulf Manor, Springdale, and portions of Forest Park. What kind of repairs have been delivered through this program? You can see a list here of the number of homes that received the main types of repairs. As I mentioned, windows, doors, interior and exterior paint, of course, gutters, etc. So really important infrastructure components of a home to be investing in. Many of these homes, as I mentioned, hadn't seen any repairs made to them in decades. And the average cost, an investment, and this is a grant-funded program, was over $50,000 per home, which is significant. I just want to share a couple of the successes of this program. We've received a lot of thank yous and acknowledgement from homeowners once their work is complete, and I think you all deserve that recognition for investing in the county homeowners in this way. So the first example, the little blue bubble here, is a letter we received from one of our homeowners who really expressed her thanks for the partnership and the craftsmanship that was put into her home through our partner Habitat for Humanity, who managed all of the construction work and managed those vendors for the homeowner. And this really had a huge impact on our home, as you can see from the exterior shot. It really looks beautiful. The home on the right is a great story too. One of our Forest Park homeowners, she received the City of Forest Park Home Beautification Award because of the repairs made to her home. Her exterior of the home was painted, new front door. She's lived in the community for 30 years, lived in this home, and never was a recipient. So we love this, and I think I love that color. I think it really looks great. You know, the homeowners got to make those choices, right, of what they wanted this to look like. So that's really a great benefit. So in terms of wrapping up, these funds, because they are American Rescue Act funds, they are time limited. We're ahead of schedule in terms of when we expect to have these funds fully deployed. The state asked us to have this program wrapped up by first quarter of 2026. We should be well in that time frame. Again, this is one-time funds, and we do just want to note that in the most recent state budget, a lot of lead hazard funds were significantly cut or eliminated. So that's really a challenge because we know that this need persists even after our program has made a nice dent, I think, in many of the homes in the county. So we just want to flag that this is really important for us to be thinking about, again, for the safety of our children into the future. And I want to acknowledge our partners in this program. First, working in neighborhoods, processed the homeowner applications and helped them collect all of the documentation that we were required to provide to demonstrate their need and the age of the home. So thank you to WIN. Thank you to Habitat for Humanity, again, for managing the construction and the contractors and really helping us to make sure we were meeting the need of the homeowners. We want to also recognize Hamilton County Public Health. I know we heard them mentioned earlier in the program, and public health team has really just been a wonderful partner to us on this because we have to provide a lead clearance at the end of this each home work completed, and they have been wonderful to work with and really appreciate their flexibility. I want to acknowledge Anson Turley from the administration, who's been an amazing partner with us on this program as well, and of course you, the commissioners, for helping us to again make this impactful investment on our housing stock. I can pause here if you have questions about this program, or we can roll right into the next and we can do questions at the end. All right. She says keep rolling. I'm in. So moving on to our loan program, the Hamilton County Revive and Thrive Home Repair Loan Program, which LISC is powering. But again, this is resourced thanks to an investment from Hamilton County commissioners, $2 million of investment, a combination of American Rescue Act funds and Community Development Block Grant funds make up this $2 million, which allows us to operate this program on your behalf to support a loan program that I will give a lot more detail about in the forthcoming slides. But again, I want to acknowledge our partners up front. First, United Way 211 is the initial entry point for homeowners, so thank you to United Way for jumping in on this. Habitat for Humanity, again, providing construction management, working in neighborhoods, working with our homeowners. Because this is a loan, we needed a financial partner, and Warsaw Federal, which is the region's first minority depository institution, or only minority depository institution, is serving in that regard and has really been a wonderful partner to us. And we are also bringing additional loan capital to match with the county's investment, and that has been provided by a loan source secured by LISC and the Greater Cincinnati Foundation. So thank you to all of our partners. And as a reminder, this loan program is a model that LISC operates around the country. So we are replicating and customizing this to our local market needs, but that we do have a significant set of track record around this program. So let's start with what makes this loan different than what someone might be able to secure at a bank. First of all, this loan is sized based on the homeowner's income and their ability to repay. We absolutely do not want us to provide a loan to someone who is not going to be able to manage the monthly debt service. So the eligibility requirements are also very flexible. We have a minimum credit score of 560. That's not something a bank would ever really sign off on. And even Warsaw said, really, 560? We said, yes, this is what we know, we can do this, we know this works, this is what our homeowners need. We also have a very generous loan to the home value ratio. This is very high, up to 150%. So this lets us support our homeowners who have a more modest home value, right, and really lets us leverage their equity. We also have a flexible debt to income, so we know all of us have a mortgage, all of us have lots of other financial obligations. We're flexible on that. We do want to make sure that the loan doesn't exceed 35% of the homeowner's income, again, to ensure that they are not taking on more debt than they can repay. The loan also has flexible terms. We can go up to 10 years, and we have a 2% interest rate, which is far below what the market can offer right now. So we're really happy that we're able to offer this very low interest rate, which I'll show you in an example what that really translates to in terms of real dollars. We also have a very low closing fee for homeowners, and in fact, one of the jurisdictions in the county has said, hey, we want to help pay that. We want to cover that cost for homeowners in our community who might apply and be awarded a loan. So we're really excited about that, and I think that's a nice offering for some of our municipalities who don't necessarily have the resource to do much more, right? But they want to do something. Again, our program partners, the first step is for just a homeowner to call 211 24 hours a day, right? They can call, they can see if they meet the basic eligibility to move forward into the process. So then they move through our various partners, which I will show you a flow chart of that in just a moment. What kind of repairs are we prioritizing in partnership with the county? We really want to focus again on improving the health and safety of our homes. We have an aging housing stock that needs investment. We know that making sure we're addressing those health and safety needs, so maybe someone wants to age in place, they want a walk-in tub, right, versus having a regular bathtub. These kinds of pieces we can do with the loan program. We're also focused on solving for existing code violations. We know many folks have code violations and they don't necessarily have a way to resolve those. This is something that Coleraine Township, Springfield Township, many of our other municipalities really like because it lets us help them solve a problem, right, that they have with their code enforcement issues. We're also focused, again, the third priority is essential repairs. Basically, we're saying this isn't just I want a new kitchen because I want a new kitchen, right? That's really not, it's not just cosmetic. We want to make sure if maybe you had water damage in your kitchen and you need new cabinets, then that is certainly something we can do, but we're really focusing on the infrastructure, the bones of the home to make sure that we're really addressing and preserving the property. So who is eligible to apply? This program is for homeowners in Hamilton County who are in participating jurisdictions. As you all know, there's just a few that are not participating jurisdictions with CDBG, so the majority of our applications are coming, as you'll see, from various parts of the county, and this is all to be spent outside of the city of Cincinnati. I will just asterisk that the city has also made investment to focus on city homeowners. That will start at the end of this year to come alongside. Homeowners have to meet the income guidelines. Again, because of the public funding sources here, we are focused at 80% of area median income and below. So those figures are around 60,000 for one person, up to 80,000 for a 3-person household. So pretty flexible. And also we do require that the homeowner is current on their property taxes or that they are on an approved payment plan with the treasurer's office, and that either they have homeowners insurance or that they have a quote available, and we can actually escrow the homeowner's insurance and their property taxes into the loan payment so that a homeowner, particularly that's useful, I think, if someone doesn't have a mortgage anymore, right? Like, and your property taxes, the bill might come and you might think, oh, I wasn't ready for that. So this lets us help folks budget for that if that is needed in their loan. So just as sort of an example of what a good applicant or program participant might look like, we created an example of a single homeowner in Forest Park. She's got a credit score of 575, and she is a retired teacher. So she has an annual steady income from her retirement and pension that allows her to qualify. She really needed roof repairs and some safety upgrades. Based on her income and her other factors, she would qualify for a $15,000 loan. Again, 2% interest over 10 years makes that approximately $143 a month in payment, which I think feels manageable, right, for many of our neighbors. So what is the process for this program? Again, we have a lot of partners at the table. There's a lot of sort of moving from space to space as homeowners move through the process. But again, calling 211 is the first step. They're determining the basic eligibility. Then working in neighborhoods works with the homeowner to gather all their documentation. We do need to make sure that the home is that the homeowner has clear title, right? Some folks don't even have to, you've lived in your home for 40 years, you might not know where you place the title. So WIN can help with locating those documents, stepping the homeowner through that process, all of those pieces. They're really walking alongside our homeowners. Then once they've been determined that everything is gathered and it meets our expectations, it moves to Warsaw Federal, where they will then determine if the homeowner is able to qualify for a loan. What we see across the country in our programs is that even when homeowners reach this step, because we don't want to pull credit twice, someone might say, yeah, I know my credit score. But then once the bank actually pulls the credit score, it might be a little lower than our expectation, right? And if that's the case, then they get routed back to WIN for financial counseling and credit counseling should the homeowner choose to want to participate. And that was something that the county really wanted us to be sure that we were incorporating and offering. And so we have had folks flow back through to try and help with credit improvement and things like that. So Warsaw does screen our go take the homeowner through the underwriting process to make sure, again, that there's not a second mortgage maybe that someone didn't know about, which does happen, right? There are some things that the financial institution has to do to verify to make sure that we're meeting eligibility. When the homeowner is approved, then Warsaw will pass that off to Habitat, who will then go and create the scope of work with the homeowner. And again, what I think makes this program really special is that the homeowner doesn't have to find the contractor. Habitat handles all of that. It took me almost a year to find someone to do our roof recently, so I'm really jealous that someone is you're ready to go, right? They're gonna show up. Habitat's managing them all the way through, and then managing the payments to the contractor as well, which is also a really important quality control component of this program. So getting the word out about this program is essential, and we have spent a lot of time over the last months really trying to spread the word, because people need to hear this multiple times, right? It is a loan. It's different than grant funded, and also because there are some parts of the county where there are really great, easy ways for us to connect in with homeowners and neighbors. Other parts, we have to take some different approaches. So we're really trying to be diverse in how we are doing our outreach, partnering with community and civic groups and with municipalities. Big shout out to a lot of our jurisdictions who have included this in their newsletter and had us at events and really allowed us to spread the word about this program to their neighbors. And I think that's really beneficial, as you'll see in in the concentration of where we've seen applications, these are also the municipalities that have been really dedicated, I think, to partnering with us. We're using social media, of course. We did a segment last week on Waycross Public Access on the county fair show, so that was fun, and that's a great way for us to reach folks. I'm sure all of you have done. I felt very special to get my moment on the county fair. And then we also are focusing on we're doing a direct mail here in the next few weeks, focused on the 45231 zip code to make sure that we are really reaching. We think that's based on our data, we know there's homeowners there, and we also know that income aligns with eligibility, which is why we're targeting. So 3,300 direct mail flyers to homeowners in that zip code will be going out very soon. We also have a mountain of door hangers available for our jurisdiction partners and anyone else. We've brought some with us today, should anyone like to have them. And we have some little flyers and other cards and collateral that we're partnering with library and other partners to have available. So that is important. The challenge really, again, is that we have to make sure homeowners know this program exists, right? This is a new offering and it just takes time. So I also want to offer that if the commissioners would like to include this in any of your outreach to community members, we'd love to talk about that and make sure that we're highlighting this program. We've worked with the 513 Relief Bus for many of their events to be visible as well, and really appreciate that partnership. Also, it's a loan, and so we have to build do some trust building and help folks understand that this is a partnership, and that, yes, it is with a bank, but the financial institution mistrust is real, right? And it just takes us some time to, I think, cross that bridge, especially with our low to moderate income homeowners. So now let's get to the nitty-gritty of where we are with inquiries and applications. So we have, through 211, we have screened, and this is as of 2 weeks ago, so these numbers would be a little different today. They continue to tick up. But we've had 312 homeowners determined to meet the baseline eligibility to move forward into the program. You can see Colerain, Springfield Township, Forest Park, Green Township, and North College Hill have the most referrals. And Colerain, Jeff Weckbach told me he wanted us to have all the money spent in Colerain, of course, as you can imagine, so you can see where we are with that. So I like that we have a little competition here to get our folks out there. So we have 55 completed applications in as of 2 weeks ago. That's it. This is a big step. As I mentioned, there's a lot of documentation that's required. It takes time. Maybe they don't have that homeowner quote, right? They're waiting for a response. So that's not unusual to see those numbers move that way, but you can see we are making good progress there. And then where we are with the loans. So right now, actually, we have 10 homeowners in underwriting right now, and we just had another loan approved, so we have 4 loans approved. And I wanted to share a little bit about the why folks are not moving forward, because I think that's important for you all to understand as well. Some homeowners are choosing to opt out because it's a loan, right? And I think that that's just real. And I think, and I'm going to talk about this in a little more detail in a minute, but based on the economy and sort of where things are right now, I think folks are feeling a little hesitant to take on any more debt than they might think is necessary. So we understand and respect that. Perhaps sometimes we have trouble getting people to call us back, right? It's just a challenge. Your voicemail is full, not able to talk during the workday, right? So Warsaw is really doing a great job of trying to meet folks where they are and understand how and when we can reach them. But we know that just sometimes can take time. Some people didn't want their credit pulled, other factors, right? And then we've had 22 of our applications that were not approved in underwriting, and it's for these reasons listed below that I mentioned, right? Maybe their debt to income ratio was too high. They didn't have the credit score that we needed. A couple folks had that second mortgage, which we don't want to add more debt, right? If you've already got 2 mortgages, some people just went slightly over that income when we actually analyzed, right, their income. Some people just have some various other sort of one-off reasons. Their Social Security payment needs to be rectified, et cetera. And again, we're referring people back to when there are credit or debt to income issues to make sure they're getting that support. And in our programs around the country, we see about, for every 10 folks that go to underwriting, we see 1 loan get approved typically. So this is not, again, this, I just share that to say that we're really on track, and I actually think our application quality is better than what we see in some other parts of the country. So we think we're going to keep moving on this and get more homeowners approved. Once the homeowner is approved, as I mentioned, Habitat for Humanity steps in. So they are going to go to the home with the homeowner and create the scope of work based on what the homeowner thinks they would like to see, and also what make sure that that aligns with the program priorities. So they then will bid that out, select a contractor or contractors to perform the work and manage that all the way through on behalf of the homeowner. Again, want to give acknowledgement to Hamilton County Public Health because of the public funds here. If the house was built before 1978, we have to follow lead protocols to ensure that we are meeting HUD guidelines. So they are partnering with us to perform the lead inspection and then the clearance at the end once the work is performed. Really appreciate their flexibility and just want to recognize they've been a really great partner to us in this work. And then Hamilton County Community Development also plays a critical role here, not just administering the CDBG portion of these funds, but they also have to step through the required environmental and historical review that HUD funds require. And that is, I just do want to note that because of some of the federal landscape, these things are taking a little longer than they used to. So they've been really great in working with us to get these moving as fast as possible. So thank you to Community Development. So what are the trends, as I mentioned, that we're seeing in our program? It's, again, the concerns about the economy, cost of living, right? Groceries are up, everything is more expensive. So we know that folks are feeling that pinch in their budgets. We are seeing our process accelerate. We're seeing that the homeowners that are coming in now and inquiring are moving much faster. They're more ready, they're more eager. I think they understand a little more about what the program is, so that's great. So we're converting folks a lot faster through these steps. And we're also working with our partners on just continuing to refine this process. How can we make this as easy and accessible and consumer friendly as possible? So that's something that we work weekly with our partners on to make sure we're really delivering for our neighbors. Again, getting the word out is paramount, so we have options available. We have our website, hamiltoncountyhome.org, and we have lots of materials, so should anyone all the people out there listening to our presentation today, if you want a flyer, if you want flyers, door hangers, you want us to give a presentation, we are in for whatever is needed. Just reach out. Contact information for Lachey, our program officer who manages this, is attached, and also we're available as well. So I will stop, and I'd love any questions or comments, and again, thank you for the support of the commission and your investment in this work.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen, and thanks for all of the information. Very thorough presentation. I just have a couple of questions.
Please.
So when you talk about continuing to get the word out about the loan program, the program is already underway, and so how much capacity is left right now so that we have an understanding of, if we were to promote it, what should people expect?
Yes. So our proposal and what was approved by the commission is that we would support 90 homeowners with loans. So we have plenty of bandwidth there, right? Even as we think about those folks that are moving through the process. So we would love to see, and also that was us sizing the loans at the largest amount. So we actually probably could service even more, right? Like the person that was just approved this week, she was approved for 10,000, I think, 10 or 15,000, right? So that gives us a little more wiggle room as well. So we would say volume is what helps us. And we also know that there are some other, if they're not a fit for our program, there are other places we can refer folks as well, or that there will be things coming online, I think, next year, potentially, so.
Okay, great. Yeah, the collaborative nature of this is really impressive, especially for those that may or may not qualify, but need some coaching from WIN. I mean, what a great resource for them to help them better prepare, really, to get the loan or the grant. So, and back to Lead Safe. So you talked about this, and when we had a press conference about this, it's been a while back, but $5 million seemed like so much money from the state of Ohio, and we're very grateful to the state for making this a priority and helping counties who could not do it otherwise do this work in our community to keep primarily kids safe. So it's a great program. But as we were looking through the numbers and the number of households impacted, you realize how expensive this work is. And it's like, oh, how many are we serving? You know, so could you help me better understand the continued need that continues to exist? So we're addressing as much as we can with this 5 million, but how much does that address really when you put it in context? And you mentioned this, the state has pulled back on some of these funds. And so is there a strategy that you're aware of to address the need ongoing from any jurisdiction or any pot of money that's out there?
Yeah. So, you know, this program was really a one-off, right? I think the Department of Development recognized the opportunity that they had to be able to invest these grant funds again into these homes that otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to benefit from lead safe repairs, because we usually require a child be in the home for a certain number of hours a day, a month, right? And so they were I think ODOD was hopeful that they could find a more sustainable investment to keep this work going, but because of budget choices, the state is going in a different direction. So I think that we really have to, there are a lot of coalitions around the state that LISC is involved with in various communities around lead safe renovations and repairs. And so it's our hope that we can use this successful deployment, right, of these dollars to say to the state and to our state house officials, listen, this is a good investment, right? Not only for children, but for the future of our housing stock. This housing stock around the state is old in all of our cities and, frankly, you know, in more of our rural communities as well. So the state has been, I do want to just note that our contacts at Department of Development have been very pleased with the design of this program and how we've been able to deploy this in partnership with you all. So we really feel like there are some good lessons learned here, that if there were to be another opportunity for funding, if we can make that case to the State House, that there is a framework that we know works well and could be replicated. So I wish we had better news, frankly, but you know, this is the reality that we exist in, and what I really hope we can partner with some of the other municipalities that delivered this program to show the success, right, and the impact, and hopefully that has some sway.
Yeah, no, I think the model is fantastic, and it's just this matter of collaboration that makes it all so successful. So, yeah, as usual, Hamilton County kind of stands out when it comes to our ability to collaborate and get the money down to where it belongs. But as far as this idea of how many homes that need these kinds of repairs with $5 million are getting these kinds of repairs, could you just?
Yep.
I know it's hard to pinpoint that, but generally.
So I think, you know, once we fiddle with the last bit of the pennies as we get down to the wire here, I think we're going to be able to touch probably just under 100 homes if our spending stays on track, right? We had estimated that we would be able to service 115, so we did, you know, but again, the need's the need, right? And some of these homes we went in, they were gaping holes in the roof, right? I mean, it's just, we can't leave people with a half-done job, right? So we had to invest. So I think that there is still probably, I would say that we have just scratched the surface. I'm looking at my team like, what do you guys think? I think we just scratched the surface. My guess is there's probably another few hundred homes in the county easily, thank you, Lachey, yes, that we could support if there was investment here through this model.
Yeah, that was my expectation of the response. I just want to put it in context.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Commissioner Summer-Dumas.
Thank you so much. I can remember, as was said earlier, the press conference that we had. It seems like yesterday, and it wasn't. But you guys took the ball and you just ran with it. You took the assignment, and such an excellent, comprehensive report. I thank your team, and you can't do it without the partners, that's for sure. I'll talk about, just make a couple comments about the loan program. You were saying the applicants are moving a little faster to get it done. I'm sure they're aware of, as you were saying, prices that are going up for supplies that they may need, and trying to get the best price now that they can. I would say as far as the lead safe program, I really like seeing the map with all those orange balls, those orange dots. Are they orange? Yeah, I guess so. And the diversity of funding. I mean, I love seeing that. So I'm very happy right now.
Thank you.
It shows the diversity, of course, of allocation. I just had a question. I'm not a builder or anything like that, but as we look at lead, I would think when you mentioned the services that have been provided, the repairs, I didn't see any drywall, and I'm just assuming you shouldn't do that. That with lead, it might be in the walls, and I was wondering why there was no drywall listed, especially if those houses are, older.
Yeah.
I see paint and all that kind of stuff. You probably
Come on
want
up.
to,
Yeah. So I'll start while Lachey walks up. But so this program, this is an important note, right? What public health often does is abatement, right? Where they completely remove, right, the lead hazard. And here the blessing of this program is that they're sort of just letting us assume that it's there, right? So we don't have to go in and test all the surfaces. We're just looking and saying, well, these are the original windows. You probably have lead paint around it. Let us fix it. So Lachey.
okay.
I would say, Kristen, you summed this up very well. So we are working to preserve the home, not to disrupt the paint, the drywall. We want to make sure that the homes stay in good order. Under the presumption rule, we assume that all homes built before January 1st, 1978 have lead present. So we're also looking at not only the interior, but the exterior, that soil that can be brought into the home as well. So there is a full opportunity to not just address the drywall. We're not doing the abatement process, but for sure making sure that it's not exposed or disturbed.
Very good. Okay, thank you. I believe that's all the notes I had, but I am well pleased with what you guys have been assigned and how you followed through on it. So thank you so much. And I know our residents are also. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Reese.
Yeah, I just want to join in saying great job, particularly with the grant component of it. And so putting together the processes and all those things and then having it be actionable, I think is important. I want to piggyback on the part of the loan component. And you're absolutely right. We are in some different times and people don't want to take on. And then that's, as you indicated, it is very complicated because it's a loan, has to be paid back. It also, some of those upgrades can have implications on your property tax going up, and people don't want the property tax up. So that also puts some resistance in trying to upgrade the homes. So I'm just glad you brought out some of those components. On this loan program, is this a forgivable loan or can it be a forgivable loan?
It is not as of now. I think we're going to continue conversation with you all about, as we get closer to middle of next year, if we need to make some, with the American Rescue Act funds, we are limited in how we can change that structure, right? Because the county's plan obligated these funds to perform in a certain way. But with the CDBG funds, I think we should talk about what might make sense, frankly, to make sure that we're supporting the community in the season that we're in now, right, versus where we were 2 years ago when we designed this. Things are just different, right? So I think we're open to having those conversations. It was our hope, and still is our hope, that we can show that this program is successful and be able to continue in partnership with you all beyond the scope of this initial contract. But I also want to recognize the realities of where we are and where our neighbors are. So, and I do want to just add, Commissioner, that with respect to, increasing property values, we are also helping to make sure that homeowners, if they're eligible for the homestead exemption, but they haven't pursued that we can support with that. And then also, I was remiss in not mentioning that if a homeowner comes in and they don't have clear title to their home, right, they're living in grandma's house and grandma passed it down, but they never got the title cleared, we have an heirs property initiative with legal aid and pro seniors, so they can get services to have that corrected, and also can get support with will and estate planning if they haven't pursued those avenues either. So we're really trying to make sure that we're touching all aspects of this to preserve that generational wealth. So thanks for setting me up for that, but yes.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Having what you're setting up is a one-stop, which I think is, because it can get very difficult for folks. We always are, screaming home ownership, and that's good. And I'm for options. I want it to be affordable if you want to rent. I want to be affordable if you want to own. But I would want us to look at, a lot of times it takes us time to get things put together. Obviously, this is very difficult. But as you've indicated, sometimes the times have called for different. So I would be interested, Mr. Ludo, to see if there's a forgivable loan that can be done. And I would be open to, when you come back to us, I would be open to something like that, because the goal was to rescue the people. And it, like you indicated, now it's a different, I was talking to another elected official, said, oh, we were studying something for 3 years and now we implemented it. Well, the timing might not be right.
Right.
And so I think your feedback, because you're talking directly, you're dealing directly with the folks we're trying to help. So this feedback has been very, very helpful, which we would have never known had you not had this program and able to go through the process and talk to the homeowners and also provide to us with how the trends have changed. So I do want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again for the presentation. Thanks for the team for being here. We appreciate it. And thank Ants and I, including you in that. Thank you for all the work. Appreciate it. All right. Our next item is our tiny home presentation. I know that Luke Blocher is here from CDF, but Jeff, I'm going to kick it to you to give us a bit of an overview here, and then we're going to ask Luke to come forward.
Thanks, Commissioner. And mainly for folks who are watching at home, because this is old news for the board, but just so folks understand the context of this next presentation. So back in December of 2022, the board entered into a strategic funding partnership with CDF, or the Cincinnati Development Fund, in an attempt to significantly expand affordable housing throughout Hamilton County. The board committed $36 million in ARPA, or American Rescue Plan, funding to CDF's Affordable Housing Leverage Fund. First and foremost, I'm not aware of a general purpose local government that has committed that amount of money to an affordable housing effort. So it was an historic commitment of funding for affordable housing. The Affordable Housing Leverage Fund is a vehicle that pools together public, private, philanthropic funding sources to support affordable housing development. To date, the information I have is that we have invested $29.4 million in ARPA funds to 29 projects that are in the process of creating or preserving more than 1,000 units of affordable housing. That means that for every $1 that this board has invested, over $10 have been leveraged towards the creation of affordable housing. So I just wanted to, again, congratulate the board for its perspective and vision on this, recognizing this as one of our top challenges and problems in the community, and making that type of substantive investment in it. The projects, as the board is aware, that we've done are anything from single-family homes, senior housing, reentry housing, developmental disability housing, all throughout the county. And then this past December, the board amended that agreement with CDF to, among other things, set aside $1 million of ARPA funds pending the outcome of an analysis on the potential for a tiny homes project in Hamilton County. So as contemplated in that agreement amendment, CDF conducted that analysis, has shared it recently, I think through individual meetings with board offices, and is here now to present it publicly. So with that, I'll turn it over to Luke for the formal presentation.
Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate that. And I would start first with echoing the comments about the LISC proposal. I mean, that is really impressive. And I think, one, it reflects on the approach of this board to lean into partnerships and collaboration, as the president said, that I think is not the norm everywhere and is important, and I think is having huge impacts. And then I think they said it, but I think you all observed it, but the work they did is really hard, and that was not easy, and it's still ongoing. And I as a fellow community lender, I want to applaud the work they're doing as well, and applaud the partnership and the investment and the strategic approach that the board is taking to these things. I think it's the right way to go. Let's see here. I think I have a slide proposal. Here we go. So as Jeff mentioned, this is sort of a follow-up for something that was contemplated back in December when you all made an amendment to ask us to explore this question. I do want to sort of table set a little bit around some of Jeff's comments and also the sort of commitment of the board to partnership. We are really proud of this work, but we're also very grateful and I think admiring of the board's upfront commitment to these ideas, because again, it wasn't the obvious thing to do. And I want to make sure that you all know that this is being noticed around the country as a really innovative model. So actually, Holly Crispin and I were in DC a couple weeks ago for the Chamber of Commerce's fly-in. Housing was by far the #1 issue being discussed with all the elected officials there. And there was a lot of discussion around future federal action and looking for places where innovation is happening around the country. And we felt pretty good, and we heard a lot of feedback that this work is amongst those types of things that people are looking at as really innovative around the country. I would also say that I recently spent some time with the Fifth Third's Community Advisory Forum, which is their national group of advisors that advises their community development bank. And Susan Thomas, who many of you know, is the president of the Community Development Bank. And she made a comment there that she said she's been making around the country as part of her work on the National Housing Crisis Task Force. She's one of the chairs. That's a national organization. Her and the mayor of Atlanta, I think, are two of the chairs. She says this effort that really was seeded initially by the county's major investment is one of the 3 most innovative things she's seeing around the whole country that are happening in the housing space. So we don't, we're all focused on the work here. You all are focused on what you're doing every day to make the county better, but this is being noticed around the country, and the county's investment is being noticed around the country as really innovative, and I think it deserves to continuously be applauded. Okay, with that, I will get into a little more of the presentation. As Jeff mentioned, this came about in December. At the time, in December, the commissioners, as Jeff mentioned, you all wanted to explore the idea of tiny homes and seeing, could we make this happen? Could we use these funds to help make this happen? And the discussion then was, okay, let's take 6 months and let's do everything we can to assess this. And while we're assessing this, let's also try to see if we can get a project to happen. There is a really important point to sort of say at the beginning here, which is that as you all contemplated it, this wasn't sort of a ready-made pipeline of projects that were sitting around just waiting to be funded. In the context of the larger affordable housing work that you all have directed us to do, there was and there is a sort of just mature industry of people who developed this work, and there were projects that had been in the works for some time that we were able to, and in particular, we said many times, at the very beginning, many projects were going to die, but for the funding that you all made available. We were able to step into that and by the nature of the way the program works, help match funds to opportunities. That isn't really the case with tiny homes, right? The idea was like, can we help spur this? Can we help spur this type of activity and development? So we went to work doing that. And I'm going to skip past this one real quick and come back to that last slide. One of the things we talked about at the beginning of this too was, what do we want to focus on with regards to tiny homes? Because that's an important element of this. You could say the word tiny homes and just think physically, what is the size of a structure? But then there are also several other elements that go into what we would do with these ARPA funds to potentially support a project. So the first was something that the board directed, which was you all really wanted to focus on veterans transitioning out of homelessness and a model that has worked around the country in a couple of different places of a cluster of tiny homes. And the reason the cluster is really important is that providing services to folks who are transitioning out of homelessness is very hard to do that efficiently in a scattered site situation because you need people on site who are providing some of the necessary services. So we started with that focus from the board as far as the type of project. And then that was a focus around rental versus ownership, which is another distinction you could make around the types of things you'd focus on. The second issue was really defined by ARPA. So if we were looking at what we could be used ARPA funds, We did talk to some people and looked at ideas around mobile structures, things that could be either repurposed. I think Commissioner Dumas made a referral to us to Metro around the possibilities of a repurposed buses, which is a really interesting idea. We got a lot of insights onto. Didn't fit with this use because of the ARPA uses needs to be a permanent structure that can have a certificate of occupancy from the building code. And so there were a couple different types of things that were excluded because of the ARPA uses. Again, sort of mobile structures, and then temporary shelter versus permanent supportive housing, which is the term that people in the industry use for rental housing for folks transitioning out of homelessness. And then there was a basic element. Again, there are different models of what people call tiny homes around the country that we looked into that don't meet the building code standards. So they're just too small. They don't have the necessary sleeping space, bathroom spaces, or certain building code elements you have to meet to actually get a certificate of occupancy as a livable space, which is what you then need for to use ARPA funds. But these are all examples of the kind of things also that we learned in this process and that are going to be valuable to anybody contemplating this type of project going forward, because we know what is sort of available under the rules and what isn't. Going back to sort of how we launched into this work. So again, we sort of said, okay, we're going to go to work, and we prioritize this work as far as a significant amount of our staff time above much over the last 6 months, because we had a lot of meetings, a lot of research, a lot of analysis. And we had, again, to sort of like describe what has been going on the first 6 months here, these are the roles of what we took on, and also to understand sort of how this is all developing. So we were an analyst, we were a researcher. We looked into projects that were being considered, we looked into all the rules that would apply, we looked into also just sort of what's been happening around the country and assessed that, how could those work with our rules here. We convened a significant amount of meetings with folks who both were considering projects with the regulators, like county regulators, the city regulators, the folks who would have to sort of like apply the rules around what was allowed, different service providers, and really everyone we could find in our space, in our local ecosystem, who could touch this and who would be interested in this and have perspective on this. Including, I would note, several folks who were referrals from commissioners, and Commissioner Dumas especially. You made several referrals both for potential land and potential connections that we've been pushing forward, and it's been aiding the possibilities here greatly. And then the last role that we will have in the future, but also goes to our role generally of this partnership, which is we're a financier. That's fundamentally what our job is here, which is we underwrite projects to say, can this project work? What is the financial need? What's the right commitment of sources that are consistent with the rules in our subrecipient agreement around the county ARPA dollars? That is work that's ongoing, and ultimately, if we can find a project that fits all the needs, that's the role we'll play. It's really important to say, in the context of this, what CDF is not. CDF is not the developer. We're not the borrower, which is the person borrowing the money. We're not the landowner or the purchaser of the land. We are working to connect all those pieces together. But until the ultimate tiny homes project will come from a developer who's got an idea, who owns land or who can acquire land, and then ultimately is willing to borrow the money or take on the obligations of using these financing sources. So we have been pushing as much as possible to find that developer, and we have some interesting ideas to sort of share. But it's important to sort of lay out at the beginning, that's not, and it's a little bit obvious, just to be clear, that's not our role as the financier, and that's not our role under our agreement with you all. Okay, I'm going to come back to some of the takeaways. This is a little bit of the findings. Let me say, as I get into these, this is sort of what we learned in our 6 months of meetings around what will it take to make one of these projects happen. And that's really what we looked at this lens from. Okay, we have some potential funding. We have a desire to facilitate this cluster of tiny home veteran housing somewhere in the county. What's going to have to be true for that to happen? And that is a lot of the work that we did with all those meetings we had with all those different partners, was to sort of figure this out, both with a couple potential projects and just generally looking at all the different partners in the ecosystem. I've said this to all of you individually. We have a project that has gone pretty far along that we're excited about, that is wanting to do with the cluster of tiny homes. We have been working diligently with them to identify how they would address zoning issues, to think about the financing options, to make sure they understand and are prepared for the zoning issues they're going to have to encounter, all of which are things that they were not necessarily familiar with ahead of time because this is a new space. And that's part of the point here is we had to do the work collectively to understand what some of these opportunities and roadblocks are so that we could overcome them. That project is still working to find land, and that's the fundamental thing that is holding it back. We have connected them to a few different potential sellers of land that there have been some fruitful conversations, but nothing has really gone across the finish line yet. And until they can find that land opportunity, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern. Let me just sort of take you through these relatively quickly. And again, we have a report as well that goes into a lot more detail here. But when you think about what you need in all of these categories to have one of these projects happen, these are the 4 major categories. The first is you have to have land. And for the purposes of the clustered model, you have to have probably a 1.5 to 3 acres. And for this to work, and this becomes important of the type of use, this project as permanent supportive housing to veterans transitioning out of homelessness that will be affordable. Perhaps, obviously, it's not going to make a lot of money. Okay, the project's not going to make a lot of money. It needs to be able to support itself through these subsidy supports, and then things like lowering the cost of development. So the ideal version of this would be land that was not extremely expensive, that was flat and developable. And developable is an important thing to say in the context of our county, which is very hilly. It's very built up for the most part. It's actually hard to find flat, easily developable land that fits this profile in the county. It is easier if you go out to more rural places. It's much easier in the central part of the state where everything's flat. Just one of the beautiful things about our region that's also a challenge when you're talking about developing land is we don't have a lot of flat land. And we've done a lot of work working with our partners to find land, identify land, even publicly owned land between the city, county, the Port Authority, but have not found a match yet that works with the project that we're working with. The second big element that's going to matter a lot, and this is one that I think wouldn't have been obvious to anybody when they started this work, is dealing with the zoning and building codes. So those are the codes that regulate what can be built on land and what physical characteristics it has to have. So the most of the cluster of tiny homes idea would be multiple buildings on one piece of land. In most of the county, that's not of right legal in the zoning code because the zoning codes are built to have either a single family home on one piece of land or sort of traditional apartment building type situation. So having maybe, I think, 15 to 20 individual buildings isn't a natural fit with the zoning code. And so you have to figure out a way to overcome that through a zoning process. And then again, you have to make sure that the minimal building requirements match up with the design for the tiny homes. And there is a state building code, but individual jurisdictions tweak it in different ways. And it's just a fact that if you are going to have to go through a zone change process to allow this, there's a pretty decent chance that's going to be a 6 to 9 month process, which is time that you have to build it to the plan. Community support is another element that's critical here in this. And again, this is about the roadmap for how one of these projects could happen. It's something that I know we all engage with a lot in this work, which is that there is a general sort of high-level support across the board for things like affordable housing, for supportive housing, for people transitioning out of homelessness. But it's not always easy about where that will be. And there's often concerns in neighborhoods and communities around what this will mean for their community. And so it's not a guarantee that wherever you might find land will also be a community that's supportive of a project like this. And you have to build in time and sort of time and maybe a little bit of uncertainty around how that might play out. And that's a factor that has to play into this as well. And then the last thing is a technical thing, but is really, really important. And again, this is something that I think will be very valuable to anybody who's considering this going forward, because I think as some of the partners we've worked with, this wasn't on their radar right away, just like the zoning wasn't on their radar right away. When they first thought of this, they had a vision, they had an idea of what they wanted to build for veterans, but some of these technical details are ones that weren't on their radar, and now they are, and they will be going forward. A permanent supportive housing again, if you're providing deeply affordable housing for veterans transitioning out of homelessness or anybody in that situation in life, you both need subsidies to build it and you need subsidies to operate it. And you need support from professionals who provide support to those communities. Most developers of housing are not providers of services to people transitioning out of homelessness. Those are two different groups of people, two different professional skills, two different businesses. And so you have to match up. You got to find a partner who's going to be your operating partner once you've built this. And that's something that I think is now very clear and top of mind to the folks we're talking to. And we've been able to connect them to the right people in our community. And they're now having discussions around if they can find the land, how they'll partner together, people like Joseph House, for example. But that is something that has to be ultimately before you begin construction, before a financier like CDF would recommend the funding, we'd want that to be in place because we don't want to have a facility built, invite veterans transitioning out of homelessness into it, and then not have the right supports for them for what they need when they're there. And that's a bad outcome for everybody. And so that's a piece of this. And the reality is there is a competitive market for that long-term operating subsidy, which is different than this, what we call capital subsidy for the building. This operating subsidy, there's this competitive market to get that, and that's not something that we control directly. That's a separate process people would go through with places like HUD. So those are the four big categories. And again, this is sort of, as we went through, had all these conversations with potential projects, with all the various partners involved, looked at other parts of the country, what was succeeding and not succeeding. These are the four big categories you got to identify, anyone's got to work with. And so now we have a report that lays all this out clearly for anybody who wants to pursue this idea going forward. And the folks we are working with now are working through these issues right now. A couple of takeaways from this that are in the report that we provided to you all. I touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but this was an innovative idea from you all to pursue, and it's a new idea. So it's not a plug and play situation, which is maybe a little bit of a cute way to say it, but like when you all sort of had the vision to invest significantly in affordable housing and senior housing, we were able to go out to the folks doing it right then and say, let's help you do more. That was also the case, though it wasn't quite as turnkey of a situation with the folks at LAD. After we knew they were doing something, you all had the vision, we went forward and said, let's help you do more faster. This was about sort of figuring out anew how to do something that had not been done before and still has not been done in this way in our community. So it's a work in progress. The places where this has happened that we've looked into, they've been at it for a while longer, so that's part of it. And then they have some of these events we don't, and the biggest among them is a place like Columbus has a lot of very easy to develop land that's available, and that's just not part of the reality in Hamilton County. And so, we have a project, and I think we've mentioned to you all with an organization called Tiny Homes for Humanity. We're really working hard with. We talk to them every week. They are, and we've made many connections to them for the land opportunities. Again, I want to thank Commissioner Dumas especially for making several recommendations that we've been tracking down with them. But they haven't yet made the match yet with the landowner who wants to sell for this purpose. The other big piece here is that we do have, and this is something we talked about, but it is a reality now, and Kristen mentioned it in regards to sort of LISC's deployment as well. At some point, the ARPA timing limitations do become an issue. Funds have to be dispersed, is the technical term in the code, by the end of December. And that means actually sort of out, not just out of the county, but out of CDF into projects. And so you can't wait until December for that. That's got to be something that's happening well ahead of that. And at some point, the timing of, we're monitoring the timing of how long this tiny homes project that we're working on might take to come to fruition versus these timing concerns. Because we don't want to be in a situation, I think, collectively, where we've run out the clock and there's money we've got to give back to the federal government because we didn't deploy it. Particularly when we have lots of other projects in the pipeline. And that's the important thing that I've mentioned you all want to say again is there is an enormous demand for this source because it is a very powerful source. And this is something that I've mentioned every time I've been here, which is this demand that's reflected up there has grown over time as people have gotten more serious about, let's do stuff in the county because now there's funding available, more than there used to be. And now we know there's a partnership that's ready to work with us quickly on this. And so it's, from a big picture programmatic perspective, it's very exciting that we've now got over $10 million of real projects out there in the county. And this is nothing in the city. We could spend the money tomorrow in the city. We could spend all this tomorrow in the city. This is all in the county. These are, there's a lot of demand left in the county, and it far exceeds what we have remaining. And so we want to manage, and we want to be, and we're going to be in regular communication, and we are in regular communication with Holly and the team here. But we want to be in regular communication with you all. As these timing pressures are mounting, let's be aware of making sure we have the biggest impact with the remaining dollars we have and the remaining time we have. And that's part of the partnership with us, is we're working with this pipeline at all times, assessing where they are, how close they are to things, what their timing is, how confident we can be they can get the funds deployed on time. Also working with them to try to minimize, as we've done all along, minimize how much of the funding they need and try to find other sources as well. But that is these are big elements that have impacted where we are right now. I do want to say, before I go to the last slide here, that there is I think reflecting on these challenges and the roadmap, and again, we have really pushed and continue to push hard with one project. We're not in any way giving up on. We're continuing to work very closely with. There is an alternative way that you all or we could have approached this, which is to give $1 million directly to somebody at the front end before a project was really in existence, and then say, go figure out a project. I think it's my opinion that we would be not only in the exact same spot we're in right now, we actually would probably be in a worse spot, because we've spent all this time working with these projects to identify these issues. I think if folks started out saying, we're gonna go right now and we have $1 million to go find a project, I honestly believe they would encounter all these problems, but they wouldn't be solving them yet. And then we'd really be at risk of losing that money, because it would have been out the door without a verification. And the whole reason, one of the reasons you all partnered with us is to do this work, right? Is to do the work very hard, very long, in partnership with these potential projects to figure out how to make it work right. This is the end of our report, and this is what's in the end of the report to you all, which is the recommended next steps as far as where we go from here. And this was in our report. Again, we sort of did at the 6-month mark. But continue to work with Tiny Homes for Humanity, which is a project that you all introduced to us early on, that we have helped move far along in the potential road here. And just continue to sort of do the work we're doing around refining how will this work. And while it's not a project, I do genuinely believe the roadmap value of this work is valuable. It actually is valuable to the cause of tiny homes in our community, because it is work that will be applicable to anybody who wants to pursue this, and it will save anybody who does want to pursue this the time and give them clarity at the beginning of this process. Back at the beginning, number two, we talked about tiny homes. The initial sort of idea was, let's study this for 6 months. Let's not spend $1 million while we wait on this study. We'd recommend keeping those funds in reserve in that same capacity for another 6 months while we keep pushing this forward. But because of those timing issues, this is number 3 here, we do want to be sort of open about, we may collectively want to fund some other high impact, time sensitive projects with those funds before the end of the year, because of issues of making sure that that the projects that you all want to happen in the county that we've got on our radar can happen, including, I should mention, other projects. We have some other projects we're discussing that would serve veterans that are not a tiny home concept, but they are serving veterans transitioning out of homelessness. We're really excited about some of those. We've talked to you about those individually. We are working with them right now. In fact, one of them just submitted the formal application, which is an exciting next step. We're continuing to work on those. So we want to be transparent in saying we'd like to hold the tiny homes reserve until the end of the year, but we may want to come together and say, hey, we've got a really exciting project. 2 or 3 really exciting projects. We've got to use all these funds for those, or else they might go away, and be open to that discussion. I think that's everything I wanted to say. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate in general just, again, the partnership. I say this every time, but it is one, it really was a historic investment by the county. It really is being recognized everywhere as something incredibly innovative with a bright future. And it has been a real pleasure to work with you all and directly with the administration. It's been a really, really, really great partnership. So I want to thank Holly and Sarah and everybody here for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. And thank you for looking into this innovative way to think about affordable housing for a specific population in Hamilton County. It's something that we're interested in. So I have just a couple of questions. When you and I met individually, we talked about the challenge of finding land, and all three of us serve on the land bank. And so I was curious to know, and maybe you can just illuminate a little bit more. I know you've talked to the port and the land bank. What are those conversations like with the land bank in particular? Because they've got all these properties all over the place.
Yeah.
Tell us why those are not available for just land, never mind the zoning and the community and all that other stuff, just the land itself.
Well, we have our model with regards to landowners. Our process in this particular example is we'll connect the landowner and the developer, and we'll sort of matchmake and make sure we say here's everything that would be needed, and then we let them sort of negotiate around whether they want to do this or not. My loose sense in the engagements between the Tiny Homes Project and the land bank is that there hasn't been a match between the land that perhaps the developer might be wanting to look at and the sort of the plans or sort of intentions the land bank had for how that land was to be developed. Either there might be in the pipeline for something else that they had been looking at. It might be these are details that I'm not speaking to, as I don't know the specifics. I'm sort of generally observing. It may be that they're potentially in negotiation for some other use, or it may be that there's a general use plan for that area that doesn't match up with what the developer wants to do. But I think those conversations can continue, but there just hasn't been that match made for whatever reason.
Okay. So when you talked about the zoning for one plot of land and what it's currently allowed to be used for, do local jurisdictions have the ability to say it's zoned for one single unit or an apartment building? Do they have the ability to say we're going to do this anyway with a variance of some sort on that property?
It depends on the jurisdiction, and it depends on sort of how much of a departure the change is from the current zoning. As a general matter, there's some zoning change that would need to happen. Probably the lightest version of it is something that in the technical terms is a variance, which is usually some administrative process that someone can go through. But oftentimes a change like this in a lot of the jurisdictions, and for example, a lot of parts of the city of Cincinnati, this is true, that would require more than a variance, which is a process, but it can be a quicker process. It usually requires, in most of the city of Cincinnati, a plan development zone change, which is a legislative change. So there's a threshold that you cross over where it's no longer allowed to be done by a variance. It has to be done by legislative change, by whatever the legislative body is. And then that becomes a much, of course, longer process that has a lot of community engagement elements built into it by law. So yes, the jurisdiction ultimately can decide to do whatever they want. The question is, what kind of process do they have to go through, and how long does that process take by law?
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Lastly, so I understand the concern about the timing here, the ARPA dollars. We do not want to leave any money on the table. So that goes without saying from my perspective. So when we think about this investment that CDF would make towards the project, because obviously we're not funding the whole project, we are partners in filling in as part of that financial stack for whatever the projects are that we're doing. Can you help us understand what the investment amount, I don't know if you know this, but from what you've described and what we've indicated we're interested in, what do you anticipate that investment amount would be from CDF? And as this board has talked to the administrator collectively about continuing to find a funding source for affordable housing. Now, we haven't seen the budget ideas yet from the administrator, but it is something that we've asked for. The hope is that we will have continued funding, and so I just don't know, and it won't be anywhere near the amount of money that we have invested from the ARPA fund, but there is potential there for ongoing funding, hopefully. And so, but I don't know if it matches up with whatever the investment amount that you would expect CDF or the county to participate with for a tiny home project.
Okay, so for a tiny home project, it's a great question, and part of the reason that we are not yet at the finish line of trying to recommend an investment for the one project we're working with is we don't have enough of the information about the project for us to say in our normal way, this is what we think they can reasonably support on regular debt they have to pay debt on. Here's the other. Here's what we think their cost. This is the work that we do, right? The costs they presented to us, yeah, those are reasonable. Those are not crazy, or they're not way too low, and they're not going to get in there and find out this thing's cost twice as much as they thought. We just don't have that level of information yet because they don't have the piece of land they can then do the drawings on to say, okay, this is what this thing's going to cost. And that's the normal. It's worth saying that the normal way that we engage with a project through the other affordable housing funds that we manage for you all and others is the project has all those things. They've got most of their budget completely done, and this is really the last money that's then going to help get it over the finish line. This is sort of the total reverse of that process, and so we're trying to divine into the future how this might look. It is something that is in the public domain that there is $1 million set aside for this, and so I think people are coming to us with the expectation that that is what might be available for a project. Our job is to really push and say, okay, what is your project actually doing? What do you actually need? What do we think is appropriate? But I think it is safe to say that a project of the size of what we've been considering, of 15 to 20 scattered or clustered homes, it will eat up a significant chunk of that if we were able to go forward with it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Summer-Adumas.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. First of all, I want to say I also met with you individually, and so as you mentioned about you hosted 20 plus meetings to facilitate the projects. You didn't include that, but it was a very inclusive list. And I also want to thank you for all the referrals that I have sent to you. Many people I didn't know, but they sent them to me and you followed through on those. So I certainly appreciate that. I have lots of comments. You brought up a few things that were not in here. Tiny homes are not a moneymaker. People are not jumping at, even though we say $1 million, how much more am I gonna make? People are not excited as it relates to money. We talk about the high number, and I'm gonna jump around because if you don't wanna see my paper, but the number of veterans that we have that are homeless really concerns me. There's no way that any of our veterans, first of all, should be homeless and on the street. I'm just gonna circle everything that I want to say for the public and for you and for my board. I brought this idea at the end of December 2024. We had almost completed our budget. We talked about the homeless and specifically the veterans, and I can remember saying, if we really want to do something, let's put our money where our mouth is, and my colleagues agreed, and we gave $1 million to that. So I certainly thank my colleagues for that. You brought up about the buses and how they wouldn't qualify because they're on wheels, but they're actually not on wheels. They used to be on wheels, so that's not really a disqualification. And I'm not here to challenge you in any way. I appreciate all the work that you've done, but at the end, I'll make my final statement as I go through these. The number of homeless veterans are increasing. You brought about the variance and the fact that it may take 6 to 9 months, and also President Driehaus brought it up. Well, maybe we go somewhere where there's some home rule, and so the amount of time it won't take as long. Maybe we need to go out of, out of Cincinnati, wherever we can go, where they can make a quicker decision. I thought about maybe even the Veterans Administration, they have grants for housing. Maybe we could add our money on to the grant situation for Veterans Administration and housing. There was also a rental facility, or I think it was a two-family. Maybe the young lady who you were so impressed with, who wants to rent to female veterans. When you talk about the financial stack, I would think that you would be able to look at her home that she wants to provide, and her, you said her information she sent to you was so impressive, and look financially how you can help out with that. I understand not being able to decide on anything else because we don't have anything positive right now to look at a financial stack. As far as clustered tiny homes, and I think I mentioned it to you, I'm not concerned about clustered tiny homes, really, and I'm not. If we can get one somewhere, we may have to do 2 or 3 on one lot, and then do 2 other at another lot in another community. Can we just get some tiny homes is my desire. And I know it's a desire of the board. I'm realistic, though. I am no way going to leave any money on the table. You can guarantee that. However, we need to not do that. You also mentioned about the possibility, not your possibility, people are thinking it's $1 million available. Maybe we can give it to somebody and let them develop something. We don't do that over in the county. Maybe another entity may give $1 million to a developer who they did not look at the background of, and we don't do that. We don't work like that. So for me, that would never happen, to just give the $1 million to a developer. It was also in here that we would extend the money until December of 2025. And I was just really wondering why we're not going to extend it to 2026, which we have the opportunity and ability to do it, to not give up by the end of this year, but to keep moving forward is what I would want to see happen. Hold on one second. And lastly, if you can pull up that page I asked you to pull up. I looked through the first 7, 8 pages, and there's one left. But all the pages I looked at talked about challenges. And so it makes me just wonder, when you look at this roadmap for challenges, where's the other column for opportunities? Do you see, and I'm not asking you to even answer it, the whole thing talks about the challenges against it. And you're being realistic. You've looked at it and you've checked out all this stuff. And they are challenges, but what opportunities do you see to make this happen? I mean, it could be as simple as more veterans off the street. That's a great opportunity. But I'm just saying I'm not giving up on this. I'm not putting my head in the sand and saying we don't have challenges. But what is our strategy for outreach? You guys and your team have been trying very hard with the people that you know to try to get them involved in this process. Maybe we need to go beyond you guys and have an outreach strategy within our administration to just say, do you have land? We want to house some veterans, some homeless veterans. Would you like to be a part of that? and that we will give you upfront money, $50,000 or whatever. And we need to do, I think, a better job of outreach, because I know you've been talking to, like you said, you went to a conference, you talked to me, you talked to other people. But I think we need to, if we as a board think it's really important that veterans get off the street and have some places, all veterans will not be helped, but some veterans will be helped. And maybe we need to do a more intensive outreach strategy to make that happen. And so when I keep hearing about there's no land, and I know we're hilly, we're known for being hilly, but there is flat land. I see it every day when I go home. And I had mentioned about there are some churches that have just lots that are empty with nothing on it. You're aware of that. And so I believe that they would be willing to build something. Some communities, we could look at the number of veterans in our communities, and maybe Carthage has 25% of veterans in their community. I know Lincoln Heights has lots of them. And so the ones that have a higher percentage of veterans, maybe we can reach out to them and say, we have a possibility. And at the same time, look at the pastors that are there. Do you have, of your 7 lots, would you like to use 2 of them for veterans housing? And I think they would be excited about it. Some communities and villages would not be excited. But I don't think, and I'm not saying you are, because I've seen the work that you've done and what you've given me. We just have to make this as enthusiastic as the $20 million that we spend toward the luxury apartments that we're building. I just think we need to find a enthusiasm, move forward. And I also would like to recommend, I don't have to do that now, but that we continue the money into the following year, but we need to see some progress with that. So I'm not, let's do it. I'm not telling you let's do it. Let's all do it. And this is a challenge to me to even give you more referrals and to make it happen, because I know our veterans would be glad to see that happen. And the winter is coming. Not that we're going to have anything built before the winter, of course, but have some anticipation of what the future looks like. So I believe that's all I have. I wanted to say also, if we can look at our land, believe it or not, Hamilton County doesn't have a lot of land, but if we can just do an assessment of what land Hamilton County has, and maybe we can purchase, we can allow developers to be on that land to do what we need to do. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Reese.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Before I go another step, though, originally, Mr. Ludo, you said we had a board put in a large amount of money toward affordable housing. Can you give that number? Because I don't want people who are watching at home, this is a pretty big number.
Yeah, so we committed $36 million to date. Approximately $29.4 million of those dollars have been spent towards the creation of 29 projects, over 1,000 units of affordable housing.
Yeah, but overall, we put what, 60 million total affordable housing?
There was 36 million towards affordable housing.
We diversified.
We
didn't go to all the
some
CDF.
towards housing preservation and homeless prevention as well, right?
I mean, I think the big number is so important. I think our board, because a lot of times, people come and ask us to put something up, and our board put up unprecedented numbers. And, yes, we have partners and we appreciate it, and I'm all for partnerships. But, it's just like when you're sponsoring something, there's a platinum level, and then there's a silver level, and there's a bronze level. And when you're sponsoring something, the platinum is up top. They get something different than somebody giving at the bronze level. And a lot of times when we put our money in a fund, it gets kind of ate up. You know what I'm saying? We put up 60 million or whatever, and then we go to a ribbon cutting and we each get 1 pair of scissors. And somebody who put in 30% less. And so it doesn't really highlight the tough decision that our board had to make. I mean, we had a tough decision, and I'm going to say it all the time because I'm a marketer. But when we go into these funds, they always, oh, we partners. And if you don't say, no, oh, you're not a good partner. No, I'm about partnership. Partnership is 50-50 if you want equal. But all the time is kind of the county is been leading in a lot of funding, and then we kind of been playing a back role. And I'm not saying we're doing it now. We've corrected some of those things. I know Luke in the past, but I want to, every time we come to this, I need to highlight, I don't want people to we're down to just $1 million. No, we have given a lot. We added $1 million. Commissioner Dubas said, hey, we want to do tiny homes. Our board, I was on board. Definitely, this is a great idea. And we put an additional $1 million. So to say that, well, y'all, if you don't use this money, it's going to go to waste. We added this money. This wasn't money you were already going to have. So you would have been down to $4 million without us adding tiny homes. Without tiny homes, we wouldn't have gave you another $1 million. We might have put it somewhere else, or at least as a board, I would have had an option as a county commissioner to decide what I wanted to do with the $1 million. I, with my vote, said, I agree, let's put the $1 million toward the tiny home. So I want to be clear of how we got here. You had all this money, and we said, use the money you already got. Mm-hmm. We had gave you millions, tens and 30, 40 million. We gave you extra to look at the tiny home. So I want to clarify that. So to say we leaving money on the table, you didn't have no money on the table. You got money on the table because we specifically said tiny homes. Without tiny homes, we might not have gave you no extra money because you already have a lot of money based on what we have given. I mean, we gave a lot of money. Now, of course, we can't solve the whole problem, but we put as the song says, a whole lot of money. It's a whole lot of money that we put up. So that's number one. Number two, I didn't do as much research as some of the others, but one of the things with our tiny homes, we said, well, before I go there, I want to thank you, but our board, and this is one of the initiatives that I had, I wanted the disability housing. And LAD had this housing, and we kept meeting, and we finally got it. And we're going to have another ribbon cutting, I think it's in Colerain Township, some clusters. But this is something else came. I presented it. My commissioners supported it. This something came from the board. If we hadn't presented it, it may not have happened. So our board is looking to diversify housing. With this, I looked at Vista Village. It's in Columbus, and it's tiny homes. Now, our tiny homes, we're saying, and Commissioner Dumas, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you presented, we're trying to do something for the veterans. Now, some of them do it just for homeless in general. We're looking for something for veterans. But with this, they go on to talk about it's a safe community. Vista Village is Columbus, Ohio's first tiny home transitional living program with a clear purpose to guide those experiencing homelessness. Ours would be experiencing homelessness as a veteran. So we're trying to do more with the VSC. We're trying to connect veterans that come home that can transition back into the local communities. And so I guess my question is, and you may have done this already, but we got Talbot House. I was just with them for their anniversary. They're getting ready to break ground on something in Walnut Hills for veterans. Easter Seals said they were getting ready to do something for veterans. And I'm not trying to divert from the actual tiny house model, but these are developers. They are with developers who are trying to do something for veterans. And I just, maybe you've indicated what you don't do. You said you're not a developer, you're not a borrower, you're not a landowner, you're not a purchaser. Okay. Well, then I think I agree with my colleagues to say, Mr. Ludo, we got to find someone else. Maybe there's a consulting that can bring in Talbot House, because they're trying to get in the veterans housing space. Easter Seals, they're trying to be in the veteran housing space. VSC, I don't know, they should definitely be connected. and maybe it's not keeping the million with you or just saying, oh, give it to a developer. Maybe it's we need to see, as we did with affordable housing, trying to see who are in that space, Talbot House, and then Talbot has the services that can go with the housing. Easter Seal has the services that can go with the housing. VSC would have the services that can go with the housing. We underwrite these nonprofit developers all the time. And so I don't have the answer today, but I'd like to put those on the table because what happens with government is when government starts to say we doing something, everybody run, all of a sudden developers, we ready to do it. If this was affordable housing was the word of the day, everybody, I got an affordable project. We were unaffordable, and the same people that was developing unaffordable is now over in affordable because the government money is in affordable. Money was out there from the government to bulldoze. So then here come the Port Authority. Every time you look up, they were tearing down. They done tore down everything. We just got land walking around because there was money to tear down. Government had money to tear down. So I do think that if we were to, developers usually go with what the government, because they always want government help, what tone we're trying to have. And I just want to say, we don't have to have the answers today, but I think the tone that we're trying to have, we don't want to be last. Tiny homes start becoming popular, then everybody will bust through the door. I got a tiny home project. I got a tiny home project. And then here comes Cincinnati late to the game, Hamilton County late to the game, because other people have been the model. We're trying to be models. So it may not be, like you said, perfect. We might not have 20 acres of land to just do a bunch of homes, but I don't know how we might be able to partner with Talbot, who's doing a veterans housing project, Easter Seals, who's doing I just know them because they have highlighted them. And who knows, maybe some of that $1 million we want to go toward some of these things. So I just wanted to put those on the table. You indicated that there's a lot of, and you would know, there's a lot of laws that don't allow the clusters, but there's a thing called subdivisions. They're all over the county. They got subdivision here and a subdivision there, and those are clusters of homes, when you go down into the subdivisions. So maybe it's the language that we use, because I would see that as a subdivision hub or what have you. So I did want to point those out. So those are my points. I don't want to give up on it either. Maybe there's something else we're missing. And maybe, Mr. Ludo, maybe there's someone else that, can look into this. But I will certainly defer to my colleagues in terms of what they would like to, how they would like to move on this. But those are the points that I wanted to look at. Incentivizing, working with Talbot's developer, their developer, Easter Seal's developer, bringing in the VSC because we want them to be a little more active. And those are the things that I would just put on the table, and maybe they've been looked at, but I will defer to my colleagues on how they want to proceed with this. But the extra $1 million, I just want to be clear, I may have made a different decision if it wasn't for this particular initiative. So I hope it would come back to us. We'd be able to, if it doesn't work, we would be able to look at it again.
So, Luke, do you have a response to any of the questions?
Sure. Yeah. And I first of all, I really appreciate the passion of the board for this issue, and it reflects generally the commitment you all have made, Commissioner Reese, to this issue more broadly that is historic. And I certainly don't waste every opportunity I ever get to say that to people, because it's very exciting. It should be applauded, and I'm excited for us to all collectively find ways to continue it. But it's all of a piece with your big commitment to trying to solve and address these issues with partners. A couple things on some of the things you just mentioned, Commissioner Reese. Those veteran providers, Talbot, Easter Seals, we have met with those folks as part of this, and then also generally we work with them all the time on other things. And they have not expressed interest. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn for them, but I don't think they've got a model of the types of things they build in the clusters wasn't their development model. But we work with them on regular veterans housing in more traditional settings, and we'll continue to, including places like Joseph House. I would welcome any additional discussions with them, and also if any discussions you all have with folks like that to convince them to maybe give this another look. I think that'd be great. I did sort of indirectly mention the Columbus project, the Vista Villages project that you mentioned. That is one that we looked at and looked into a lot. Their model, one is that the land situation in Columbus is a lot simpler to solve than it is down here. But also, I believe that model, which is great, I think is heavily based in sort of a faith-based fundraising model, which is not inconsistent with our approach, but our approach has been to focus on folks who wanted to engage with the government process. I think there was a different process they went through to raise the money for that project up there. But it is a good model of something that's happened in the state. And there's lessons to be learned from it, but there's some things that aren't exactly the same here. I very much appreciate Commissioner Reese, and to the extent that it was said in a different way, it wasn't my intent that you all put this money forward to try to solve this problem, and that's what we've been working on and are continuing to work on. I'm mentioning this is in the context of our larger partnership that you all put this in, and I just want to make the board aware that, and us to all just be talking about it, like as time goes forward, we will get into a time crunch and we'll have to assess what we want to do in that time crunch as we get towards the end of 2026. So that's really my goal there, but I appreciate very much that, and we took the direction loud and clear. This is a priority you all want to see happen. That's what we've been putting the work in to do. Commissioner Dumas, I would take you up absolutely on the idea that let's push to try to push inside the county administration, push in ever venues we have, like let's ask people to make land available, or let's ask them to at least open to a conversation. I think we just haven't cracked that nut yet. I think it cannot hurt to ask more questions around that. And I guess that's really all I'll say, and just appreciate generally, of course, always this partnership, and very much appreciate that we are here to sort of take from you all direction on what you want to try to accomplish, and then be a tool that can go try to accomplish that. That's our role here.
Well, yeah. Yes, Commissioner Samara Dumas.
I just had one other comment. I love what Commissioner Reese had said about the partnerships, and especially the Veterans Service Commission. If we can, they may know about housing monies that we don't know about. And so also the clustering element of it, I have said a while ago, let's just try to find somewhere to put one or two. So don't see that as I can't tell you for the whole board, but if we can cluster, great. If we can get 2 here and 3 here, so I wanted to make that very clear.
If I can respond to that, I think to 2 things on that. One is, it's difficult to provide the services to folks transitioning out of homelessness. Those have to be provided on site, and so when it's only one home or 1 or 2 homes, it gets harder to figure out the model for how you're getting the services that would come do that versus a facility that has 20 residents living there, and you can figure out a way to get the services lined for that. That just is a challenge that's out there that we would have to address. I would also say
that's not a challenge. Being a social worker, it would be like going to someone's home to provide services. And I understand that the services are necessary, but that's not a challenge to have 1 or 2 houses versus 12. And the wraparound is very important, but that's not a challenge. So we don't want to see it as one. If they're under the jurisdiction of JFS or wherever, Talbot House, they will come to 1 home, and they do it all the time. You can go on.
And we will bring that back to our partners as well as a priority. I think I said this at the very beginning, but there has been not in the veterans permanent supportive housing context, but just generally the idea of tiny homes has been around for a while and people have talked about it. We at CDF over the years have been working with folks to try to figure out how to help them do it. And we have encountered over the last several years, there's an expectation that because a home is a lot smaller, it's gonna be way, way cheaper to build, and it hasn't always panned out that way. So individual tiny homes have been not for sale, so not for folks transitioning out of homeless, just like regular old for sale homes. There have been some folks who've taken a run at that, and it just hasn't worked out as well as people have hoped, but it's continued to be pursued, but that's separate from what we're talking about here, and I understand, Commissioner Dumas, your view on this.
And just a couple more, not long comments, just Commissioner Reese brought it up, and she's correct that originally we did say homeless, that we wanted tiny homes for homeless, and you're correct, but we talked about the possibility of making it more amenable to communities. If we say veterans are coming to tiny homes versus just homeless, and they're just as important, not versus, but that if we said it was homeless housing, that maybe the communities would be more acceptable if we said veteran homeless housing. So so you're right about that. That's what we originally had said. And then I guess lastly, I think at the beginning of your presentation, you indicated there was a 6-month assessment, but you kind of said it yourself that tiny homes have been around for a while. And I didn't know that we had agreed to 6 months assessment. That's water under the bridge, but they're all over the place. So, and you've done your assessments and we're ready to move forward,
So to follow up on that then, so we've got this money sitting that needs to be spent by the end of the year. So we've got a decision to make as a board. So I think, because it's ARPA money, right?
We have until
26. I'm sorry. I apologize. But we do have a deadline. So what is kind of the drop dead date? I mean, you've talked about continuing to pursue this. We've talked about these partnerships. It sounds like Talbert and Easter Seals are doing homeless veteran work. It's just not tiny homes, right? Is that what you were saying, that there's housing for homeless veterans being worked on by agencies? It's just not a tiny home concept. And if that's true, I want to get an idea of how we're moving forward with this, because again, if we've got $1 million on the table for something that won't be able to be used for that specific project or that idea, at some point we need to make a decision about that, right? If we want to move forward now and wait until that drop dead date and then continue to make a decision, or have the administration bring, and as Holly does occasionally, bring something to us that says, all right, we've got these ARPA dollars available, we need to redirect them because they can't be used for the original idea, and then make a decision as a board as to how we want to proceed with that. So I just want to get a better idea of the action steps that we need to take. Sounds like it's not urgent, but at some point we need to make a decision here, right?
Yeah, Commissioner.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify some people that's watching. Take out the $1 million extra that we put in, okay, that you haven't done anything with. You still, according to you, you have 5.2 remaining minus the 1 million. You got 4.2 million, and for me, I want to see, let's get moving on those dollars, because if we didn't add the $1 million for tiny homes, we would have 4.2 million that can go to projects. So I want to be clear that we're not holding up projects from moving forward, because that was the original dollars.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that the $1 million, I think you're right, but I don't know if we have to make a decision today. But there are a lot of other needs. I mean, there's people who can't pay their gas and electric still. There's people who we've got seniors problems. I mean, there's a bunch of people that need the money, that can get it out the door today. So I don't think it's something we gotta, I know it's something we gotta think about, but I think
I wasn't
what Commissioner Dumas, and I don't want to interpret her, but I hope I interpreted correctly though. I think what they were saying is go back and see if we've exhausted everything. Of course, there'll be a timeline to say we can't. But in the meantime, get busy with these $4.2 million that are supposed to be going out the door. We're not stopping any projects. That would be my thing, but there were some things brought up today that, all three of us brought up that I would like to have, a little more information. Maybe it's not on Luke himself. Hey, Mr. Ludo, you got a whole team. We got consultants and partners and this. There were some things that were brought up today that maybe we'd like to, I know I would like to, I won't speak for everybody, but I'd like to get more information before we just throw it up and say, forget the tiny homes or forget the veteran homes.
Yeah, no, I'm not at all implying that we.
No, I
don't
didn't
wanna
say
move
you
forward
implied
with
it. I was just saying I don't want to.
Right. So I think we're all committed to tiny homes for veterans who find themselves to be homeless. So we all want to pursue this. But I'm concerned about the timing of losing the funds. That's all I'm talking about. Tell us, are we holding anything up by way of the remaining dollars that we've allocated? Or it might be interesting to know, because you said there is a pipeline of projects, maybe some of them even outside of this million, or could be used for veterans. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's in the pipeline. So it might be useful to have that information from you as to what you all are considering by way of the remaining money. You gave us a number that there are more requests than dollars available. So that I think might be helpful to the conversation. And then I'm committed to this as well. I'm just worrying about the timing of it. So that's all I was saying. So Jeff,
let me just make a comment because Commissioner Reese brought up another great point. The 4.2, that's what we should be worried about more so than the 1 million. That's 4 times as much money as we're talking about. So I just don't understand the emphasis on the 1 million. And I'm sure you have a vision for the 4.2, but I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, we have even if for the tiny homes we only spent 250,000 or half, a $250,000, that would be great. We did it. We set a goal and we've done it. Maybe that's all we can get done. But we definitely need to be looking at the 4.2 and not having a microscope on this 1 million. That's all I have. I wasn't.
Okay. Yeah. Did you?
Well, we've all talked about the remaining dollars. So
yeah, I will say that. Yeah, if I could. Yeah, and so the remaining money is being we are managing that pipeline of $11 million or so of project requests. The way that we work the process is those projects are, if any of them we felt like we're ready to go today, right now, we would push that one forward and tell the next ones, hey, you've got to wait until next year to see what happens. But we're trying to maximize how much we can do with that by pushing forward several projects at once. And the reason that we're bringing up the timing question just might be that we may find ourselves in a situation, later this year where there are 4 or 5 high impact projects, the projects that, we've all collectively, you all said you want to see happen, that we've been pushing for, which is affordable housing out in the county, big projects. That we would be able to do all those if we were able to divert some of this, right? And so we're not saying that today, but we're saying that we may be at a point where it's like choice. We have to choose because those things are ready to go. And we still haven't found, the tiny homes project hasn't gotten to the line where it wants to get in. But we're going to keep doing that.
You have a list of those projects?
Yeah, we have we can figure out the right way to share that information for sure.
So let's give us an understanding of what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And then we need to make the decision about these additional dollars. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing real substantive other than just I wanted to hit, but you guys ultimately got to it. Just the dollars in the pipeline, the eligible projects that were coming forward, and I knew there were still some hurdles with some of those, but just wanted to make sure that it was clear that for the 4.2 or the 5 that are still outstanding, that there is project demand out there for those. So but you guys got to that anyway. So just high level though, in terms of
demand for veteran housing too. There's a lot of demands.
Yeah, well, and I think that was said in the presentation that.
So we'll just put it all together and make it happen.
Right. That was kind of that was my point. And so, but as it relates though to the presentation and the tiny homes, from a tactical perspective, it sounds like Luke. As we've discussed, you have a You have a developer still working through the process, not quite there yet. We'll continue to engage with CDF on that particular lead. Make sure we're doing everything internally that we can to help with that. There was a mention about county database of property, et cetera. We have looked at that in the past. We are rescanning that as well, just to see if there are things that we can offer from a county perspective of publicly owned land that we can bring to bear here. And we will continue to insert this and weave this into conversations that we have with all of our partners. We talked about Talbert House, VSC, Easter Seals, et cetera. We'll weave those into conversations, the regular conversations we have with them as well, to make sure that we are pressing this issue, both on the general veterans and affordable housing perspective, as well as on the tiny home side as well. So, and then we'll stay in touch with Luke and CDF on it. So.
Okay.
Outreach strategy, though, with many property owners that have a lot and they would be willing to build a tiny home. Maybe we can, administration can look at some sort of strategy to let the property owners know.
Yeah, we can talk about a broader advertisement strategy. And I think you had even mentioned, in addition to lot owners, you mentioned specifically churches, religious institutions, et cetera. So we've got contacts with those as well. We can reach out to those and see what we can do there as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it. All right, commissioners. Yeah.
President Driehaus, I'm sorry if I could have a point of privilege. We just got news that former bingo player Rudy Johnson died just now. And, you know, he was big with our bingos, but he did a lot in the community and helping a lot of youth. And I'm told that, you know, some youth are very upset, of course, people in the community as well. But I know we usually do it on Thursday. I just couldn't wait because this is, they're talking about the CTE and mental health that he was struggling with. So please keep their families in prayer. I know he was a member, I think he was a member of churches here, and he was heavily involved in the community outside of just on the field. So please keep the family in prayer.
Do you want to take a moment of silence?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that forward. All right, our last item is an executive session. So I'm going to move that we go into executive session pursuant to ORC section 121.22G4 to discuss collective bargaining.
Second.
Commissioner Driehaus?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Thank you.